The kitchen smelled like memories. Garlic and rosemary filled every corner of our suburban Denver home as I stirred the risotto, Marcus's absolute favorite. My hands moved automatically, muscle memory from 12 years of marriage guiding each precise motion. Outside, the Colorado autumn painted the maple trees in brilliant oranges and reds, but inside, everything felt gray. I'd been planning this dinner for weeks. Not just any dinner. This was my Hail Mary, my last-ditch effort to save what felt like the hollow shell of our marriage. Marcus had been distant for months, working late, taking calls in the garage, sleeping on the couch more nights than not. When I'd suggested couples therapy, he'd laughed, and said we didn't need to air our dirty laundry to strangers. So here I was, channeling my desperation into mushroom risotto, hoping that somehow the meal that had won his heart on our third date could work its magic again. The front door slammed with that particular weight that meant Marcus was home. No, honey, I'm back. Or familiar footsteps heading to the kitchen to peek over my shoulder like he used to. Just silence, followed by the sound of his briefcase hitting the hardwood floor in the entryway. Perfect timing, I called out, my voice artificially bright. Dinner's almost ready. More silence. Then his voice flat and cold. Sarah, we need to talk. My stomach clenched, but I kept stirring. Can it wait? I made your favorite. The risotto from Marcello's. You know, the one you've been craving. His footsteps finally approached the kitchen, but they were slow, measured, different. When I turned around, Marcus stood in the doorway looking like a stranger. His usually warm brown eyes were distant, his jaw set in that way that meant he'd already made up his mind about something. He was still in his charcoal suit from the office, but his tie was loose, hanging around his neck like a noose. It smells amazing, he said, and for a split second hope fluttered in my chest. Then he continued, but we really need to talk. Now. I turned off the burner and faced him fully. At 34, Marcus was still handsome in that clean-cut, all-American way that had first caught my attention at a coffee shop near DU 12 years ago. But now, looking at him, I saw a stranger wearing my husband's face. Okay, I said, wiping my hands on my apron, the silly frilly one he'd bought me for my birthday. 3 years ago. What's going on? He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a manila envelope. My blood turned to ice. Marcus, what is that? He set it on the kitchen island between us, right next to the bottle of wine I'd opened to breathe. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been trying to create romance, and he'd brought legal documents. Sarah, I think we both know this hasn't been working for a long time. What hasn't been working? The words came out sharper than I intended. Our marriage? Because I've been trying, Marcus. I've been trying so hard. That's just it, he interrupted, running his hands through his hair. You've been trying. This whole thing feels forced, artificial, like we're both just going through the motions. So your solution is divorce? I gestured at the envelope like it was a snake. Just like that? No discussion, no therapy, no... I've been thinking about this for months, Sarah. It's not just like that. Months. While I'd been planning romantic dinners and buying his favorite beer and trying to figure out why he seemed so distant, he'd been planning his exit strategy. The risotto started to stick to the pan behind me, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Is there someone else? He hesitated for just a moment, barely a heartbeat. But I caught it. No, Sarah. There's no one else. This is about us. About the fact that we've grown apart. We can grow back together, I said, hating how desperate I sounded. That's what marriage is, Marcus. You work through the rough patches. You don't just give up. Some things can't be fixed. He pushed the envelope toward me. My lawyer drew these up. It's all very straightforward. We split everything 50-50, no alimony since we both work. And Your lawyer? The words hit me like a physical blow. You hired a lawyer? How long have you been planning this? Sarah, please, just look at the papers. I think you'll find everything's fair. Fair. Like there was anything fair about having your marriage dissolved over risotto. With shaking hands, I opened the envelope. The papers were thick, official-looking, filled with legal jargon that made my eyes blur. But I forced myself to focus, to read through the whereas and heretofores and parties of the first part. And then I saw it. Right there on page 3, in black and white, a mistake so glaring I almost laughed. Almost. The account number for our joint savings account was wrong. Not just a transposed digit, completely wrong. The number listed belonged to an account I'd never seen before, with a balance that made my breath catch in my throat. $247,000. Our joint savings had maybe $8,000 in it. I would know. I balanced our checkbook every month, managed our finances, knew every penny that came in and went out. But this account with nearly $250,000, I'd never seen it before in my life. Marcus, I said slowly, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. What's account number 44297865-02? The color drained from his face so quickly I thought he might faint. What? This account. Right here in the paperwork. It's listed as our joint savings, but I've never seen this account number before. He reached for the papers, but I pulled them back. Sarah, let me see. $247,000, Marcus. Where did $247,000 come from? There must be some mistake. You're damn right there's a mistake. I stood up straighter, something cold and sharp crystallizing in my chest. The mistake was me trusting you. His phone buzzed on the counter. A text message. Without thinking, I glanced at it, and my world tilted sideways. The message preview showed a woman's name I didn't recognize, Victoria, and the beginning of a text. Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. The new apartment is perfect. Marcus lunged for the phone, but I was faster. Victoria? I said, my voice deadly calm. Who's Victoria, Marcus? Sarah, give me the phone. Who is Victoria? I repeated, backing away from him. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, isn't it? The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. The late nights, the distance, the mysterious bank account. How long, Marcus? How long have you been living a double life? Sarah, please. How long have you been cheating on me? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. Marcus's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, and I knew before he said a word. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I almost laughed. Almost. What way was it supposed to happen? You were going to divorce me, take half of everything, and ride off into the sunset with Victoria and your secret $250,000 nest egg. The money isn't what you think. Then explain it to me. I slammed the papers down on the counter, making the wine bottle jump. Explain to me how my husband of 12 years has been hiding a fortune from me while I've been clipping coupons and worrying about our mortgage payment. Marcus looked trapped, cornered. Good. He should feel trapped. The money, it's from some investments. Private investments that you hid from your wife. Investments you made with money that should have been ours. Sarah, you don't understand. Business. Don't. The word came out like a whip crack. Don't you dare patronize me right now. I have an MBA, Marcus. I understand business just fine. What I don't understand is fraud. It's not fraud. Hiding marital assets during divorce. Proceedings? Yeah, Marcus, that's fraud. That's also perjury if you sign a sworn statement saying we have no other assets. I could see the wheels turning in his head, could practically hear him calculating his options. But I was done being the naive wife who trusted blindly. I need some air, he said finally, reaching for his keys. Running to Victoria? I asked sweetly. He froze. What? Victoria. The woman who's waiting for you tonight in the new apartment. The apartment you're probably paying for with our money. How do you... Your phone, Marcus. It's amazing what you can learn when you actually look. He grabbed his phone from the counter, but it was too late. I'd seen enough, more than enough. Don't wait up, he said, heading for the door. I won't, I called after him. I'll be too busy making some phone calls. The front door slammed, leaving me alone in the kitchen with the smell of burnt risotto and the taste of betrayal in my mouth. But for the first time in months, I felt something other than sadness and confusion. I felt angry, and anger, I was learning, was much more useful than heartbreak. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's guilty face, Victoria's name on his phone, that impossible bank account balance. By sunrise, I was sitting at my laptop in the kitchen, surrounded by coffee cups and legal documents, feeling like a detective in my own life. The first thing I did was call in sick to work. Rebecca, my assistant at the marketing firm, knew something was wrong immediately. Sarah? You never call in sick. Are you okay? Family emergency, I said, which wasn't technically a lie. My family was having an emergency. It was just that I was the only one who knew about it yet. Do you need anything? I can reschedule your meetings. Just handle whatever you can. I'll be back tomorrow. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true. Tomorrow felt like a foreign concept. Right now, all that mattered was figuring out exactly how deep this rabbit hole went. I started with what I knew. The account number from the divorce papers was burned into my memory. 4429-7865-1102. A quick search showed it belonged to First National Bank of Colorado, the same bank where we had our checking account. How had Marcus opened a secret account at our own bank without me knowing? Simple. He probably told them it was a business account. Marcus worked as a senior project manager at a construction company. He traveled to job sites, met with clients, handled contracts. It would be easy enough to claim he needed a separate account for business expenses. But $247,000 wasn't business expenses. That was a fortune. Our combined annual income was maybe $140,000. Where had $250,000 come from? I grabbed our tax returns from the filing cabinet in Marcus's office. Looking at them now, I felt stupid for not noticing the discrepancies before. His W-2 showed his salary from the construction company, but there were other forms I'd never paid attention to. 1099s from companies I didn't recognize. Investment income from accounts I'd never heard of. How did I miss this? I muttered, spreading the papers across the kitchen table. The answer was embarrassing but simple. I'd trusted him. Marcus had always handled the complicated financial stuff. Investments, retirement accounts, taxes. I managed our day-to-day finances. He managed the big picture. What a joke that had turned out to be. My phone rang, making me jump. Marcus, Sarah, we need to talk. Do we? Because last night you seemed pretty done talking. Look, I know you're upset. Upset? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Marcus, upset is when you leave the toilet seat up or forget to take out the trash. This is something else entirely. Can I come home? We need to discuss this like adults. Adults don't hide $250,000 bank accounts from their spouses. Silence on the other end. Then, how did you... Never mind. I'm coming home. Actually, don't. I'm not ready to see you yet. Sarah, you can't keep me out of my own house. Watch me. I hung up and immediately called a locksmith. While I waited for the locks to be changed, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called Marcus's office. Hi, this is Sarah Patterson, Marcus's wife. Is he in today? Oh, hi, Sarah. No, Marcus called in sick this morning, said he had a family emergency. Interesting. So he was lying to his work, too. Did he happen to mention when he'd be back? He said he might need a few days. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, I lied smoothly. Just some family stuff to sort out. Thanks. I hung up and immediately felt guilty for the deception. But then I remembered Victoria's text message, and my guilt evaporated. The locksmith arrived at 10:30, a gruff man in his 50s, who didn't ask questions and worked efficiently. While he installed new deadbolts, I continued my investigation. Marcus's home office was a revelation. I'd rarely gone in there. It was his space, cluttered with blueprints and project files, and I'd respected his privacy. What an idiot I'd been. His filing cabinet was locked, but I remembered him keeping a spare key in his desk drawer. Inside, I found a folder labeled Personal, Confidential that made my blood boil. Bank statements for the secret account going back 2 years, investment portfolios I'd never seen, and correspondence with a financial advisor named David Chen, who'd apparently been helping Marcus move money around like a shell game. The pattern was clear once I knew what to look for. Marcus had been skimming money from various sources: bonus payments from work that he'd never mentioned, profits from side consulting jobs I didn't know about, even money from selling some of my grandmother's jewelry that I thought had been stolen in a break-in last year. That last discovery hit me like a physical blow. I'd cried for weeks over my grandmother's ring, a delicate vintage piece with tiny diamonds that had been in our family for 3 generations. Marcus had held me while I sobbed, had called the police, had even suggested we increase our insurance coverage, all while knowing he'd sold it to fund his secret escape plan. My hands were shaking as I photographed every document with my phone. I was thorough, methodical, documenting everything like the crime scene it was. That's when I found the lease agreement, an apartment in Cherry Creek, one of Denver's most expensive neighborhoods. A 2-bedroom luxury unit with granite countertops and a mountain view, renting for $3,200 a month. The lease was signed 6 months ago, and both Marcus's and Victoria's names were on it. 6 months. He'd been planning this for at least 6 months, maybe longer. I Googled Victoria's full name from the lease. Victoria Chen. 26 years old, worked as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup. Pretty, from what I could see in her sparse social media profiles. She was 8 years younger than me, had long dark hair, and the kind of effortless style that came from not having to worry about mortgage payments and grocery budgets. The most nauseating part. Some of her photos were taken in places I recognized. The restaurant where Marcus had claimed to have business dinners. The hiking trail where he said he went to clear his head on weekends. The coffee shop 2 blocks from our house where I'd sometimes seen him having what I thought were work meetings. He'd been living a double life right under my nose. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Sarah, please, we can work this out. Don't do anything rash." I almost laughed. Rash? What was rash was him serving me divorce papers after 12 years of marriage. What was rash was him hiding $250,000 while I worried about our budget. What was rash was him moving his girlfriend into a luxury apartment while telling me we needed to cut back on expenses. I texted back, "Come home. We need to talk. But call first. I changed the locks." His response was immediate. "You what?" "You heard me. This is still my house too, and I don't feel safe having someone with your flexible relationship with honesty having unrestricted access." 20 minutes later, he was at the front door. I watched him through the peephole, saw him try his key and realize it didn't work. When he knocked, it was sharp and impatient. "Sarah, open the door." I took a deep breath and opened it, keeping the chain lock engaged. "We can talk through here. This is ridiculous. I live here. So do I. And right now, I'm the one who doesn't have a secret apartment across town." He looked tired, older somehow. His hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled. "How do you know about the apartment?" "The same way I know about the $247,000, the side jobs, and the fact that you sold my grandmother's ring. I held up the lease agreement. You're not as smart as you think you are, Marcus. His face went through a series of expressions: surprise, guilt, anger, and finally resignation. Can I please come in so we can discuss this like civilized people? Civilized people don't steal from their spouses. I didn't steal anything. Then what do you call hiding marital assets? Sarah, it's complicated. No, it's not. It's fraud. It's theft. And it's grounds for me to take you to the cleaners in divorce court. That got his attention. What do you want? I want the truth. All of it. How long have you been cheating? How much money have you hidden? And why? My voice cracked despite my efforts to stay strong. Why wasn't I enough? For a moment, he looked like the man I'd married. Vulnerable. Almost broken. Sarah, you were enough. You are enough. This isn't about you. Don't give me that crap. If I was enough, you wouldn't have needed Victoria. He leaned against the doorframe. It started as just a friendship. She was working on a project with our company, and we had coffee a few times. I wasn't looking for anything, I swear. But you found something. She made me feel, I don't know, young again, exciting, like I was more than just a husband and a mortgage payment. So you decided to become a liar and a thief instead? I never meant for it to go this far. The money, the apartment, it all just spiraled. Spiraled? I couldn't keep the incredulity out of my voice. Marcus, you didn't trip and accidentally open a secret bank account. You didn't stumble into hiding assets. You planned this. You've been planning this for months, maybe years. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, what happens now? Now you're going to transfer every penny of that hidden money back into our joint account. You're going to sign a confession detailing every asset you've hidden. And then you're going to pray that I don't decide to file criminal charges. Sarah, be reasonable. Reasonable. I unlatched the chain and stepped outside, closing the door behind me. Standing on my own front porch, looking at the man who'd shared my bed for 12 years, I felt like I was seeing him clearly for the first time. You want to see reasonable? Reasonable would be me calling the police right now. Reasonable would be me hiring the nastiest divorce lawyer in Denver and taking you for everything you're worth. Reasonable would be me posting screenshots of your texts with Victoria on social media and letting everyone know what kind of man you really are. His eyes widened. You wouldn't try me. We stared at each other for a long moment. I could see him calculating, trying to figure out his best move. But for once, I held all the cards. I need time to think, he said finally. You have until tomorrow at noon. After that, I make some phone calls, and this gets a lot more complicated for you. I turned to go back inside, then paused. Oh, and Marcus? Your girlfriend's name is Victoria Chen, not Victoria Patterson. That makes her the financial advisor's daughter, doesn't it? David Chen? The man who helped you hide our money? The look on his face told me I'd hit the bullseye. Sweet dreams, I said, and closed the door in his face. The next morning brought November, rain to Denver, the kind of cold drizzle that seeps into your bones and makes everything feel gray and miserable. Perfect weather for what I had planned. I'd spent the night researching divorce law in Colorado, consumer protection statutes, and the penalties for hiding assets during divorce proceedings. By 6 a.m., I had 3 different lawyers' offices on speed, dial and a folder full of evidence that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. But first, I had a different kind of appointment. David Chen's office was in a sleek downtown building, all glass and steel reaching toward the cloudy sky. The kind of place that screamed expensive and discreet, perfect for helping cheating husbands hide their money from their wives. I'd made the appointment using Marcus's name, claiming I needed to discuss urgent financial matters. The receptionist, a polished woman in her 40s, greeted me with professional confusion when I walked in at 9 a.m. sharp. "I'm sorry, I was expecting Mr. Patterson." "I'm Mrs. Patterson," I said with a smile that probably looked more like baring teeth. "I'm here about my husband's accounts." Before she could object, I walked past her toward the corner office where I could see a man in his 50s hunched over paperwork. David Chen looked up as I knocked on his open door. "Mr. Chen, I'm Sarah Patterson. We need to talk." He gestured for me to sit, his expression wary. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm not sure what this is about, but I can't discuss your husband's accounts without his permission. Even when those accounts contain marital assets that he's been hiding from me?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd taken of the bank statements. "Even when your daughter is the woman he's been having an affair with?" The color drained from his face. "I think there's been some misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding is me thinking you were an ethical financial advisor instead of someone who helps men steal from their wives. Mrs. Patterson, I need to ask you to leave. I'm not going anywhere until you explain to me how you helped my husband hide $247,000 in assets while I was clipping coupons and worrying about our mortgage payment." David Chen's hands were shaking slightly as he reached for his phone. "I'm calling security." "Go ahead. I'm sure they'll be very interested in hearing about your business practices. I'm sure the Colorado State Securities Board will be too." He paused, phone halfway to his ear. "What do you want?" "I want you to transfer every penny from that secret account back to our joint savings account, today, before noon." "I can't do that without your husband's authorization." "Then I suggest you call him and get it, because if that money isn't transferred by noon, I'm filing complaints with every regulatory board I can find, and I'm making sure everyone knows that David Chen Financial Services helps men commit fraud." I stood up and smoothed my skirt. "Oh, and Mr. Chen? You might want to have a conversation with your daughter about the ethics of dating married men whose money you're helping them hide. Just some friendly advice from one parent to another." I left him sitting there with the phone in his hand and a look of pure panic on his face. My next stop was Marcus's office. I'd never visited him at work unannounced. It had seemed pushy, invasive. Now I realized I'd been giving him the privacy he needed to build his house of lies. The construction company was housed in a sprawling building on the outskirts of town, all concrete and practical efficiency. I found Marcus's department on the second floor, and his assistant, a friendly woman named Janet, looked surprised to see me. "Sarah, what brings you here?" "Marcus isn't in today." "I know. I need to speak with his supervisor, actually, about some discrepancies in his timesheets." Janet's smile faltered. "Discrepancies?" "Just some billing irregularities I've uncovered. Nothing too serious, I hope." 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Tom Rodriguez, Marcus's boss, spreading out printouts of consulting invoices and bank deposits. Tom was a no-nonsense man in his 60s who'd clearly worked his way up from the job sites to the corner office. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm not sure I understand what you're showing me here. These are invoices for consulting work Marcus has been doing on the side. Work that, according to his employment contract, should have been cleared through the company first." Tom studied the papers, his frown deepening. "He's been doing side work without authorization? Side work using company resources, company contacts, and expertise he gained working here. And he's been scheduling these consulting jobs during hours when he claimed to be working for you." I pulled out Marcus's timesheets that I'd found in his home office, cross-referenced with his consulting invoices. "See here? Last Tuesday he claimed to be at the Morrison site all day, but he was actually consulting for Preston Development across town." Tom's face was getting redder by the minute. "This is a serious violation of his employment agreement. I thought you should know. I'm sure Marcus was planning to disclose all of this eventually, but given our current situation, I felt it was important to bring it to your attention." I left Tom's office with the satisfaction of knowing that Marcus's secret consulting career was about to become a very public problem. By 11:30, I was back at home, waiting. The house felt different somehow. Lighter. Like a weight had been lifted from the air. Or maybe that was just me finally feeling like I had some control over my life again. Marcus called at 11:45. "Sarah, what the hell did you do?" I had some conversations with people who needed to know the truth. David Chen called me. He's terrified. He's talking about transferring the money back. Good. That's the first smart thing either of you has done in months. And my boss called. I'm suspended pending an investigation into my side work. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Sarah, this is my career. This is my life, Marcus. My life that you've been systematically destroying while I made you risotto and worried about why you seem distant. I never wanted to hurt you, but you did. Every single day for months, maybe years. Every lie, every hidden dollar, every night you came home from your girlfriend's apartment and let me worry that I was losing you. There was a long pause. Then, the money's been transferred. All of it. Check your bank account. I was already logged into our online banking. The balance had jumped from $8,147 to $250,438. It should have felt like victory, but mostly it just felt empty. What about the apartment? I asked. I'm ending the lease. Victoria's not happy. I'm sure she'll survive. 26-year-olds are resilient. Sarah, I know I screwed up. I know I can't undo what I've done. But maybe we could try to work through this. For a moment, I actually considered it. 12 years of marriage, all the good times before everything went wrong, all the plans we'd made together. It would be easy to forgive, to pretend this had never happened, to go back to making risotto and hoping for the best. No, I said finally. No, I can't trust you anymore, Marcus. And without trust, we don't have a marriage. We have a business arrangement, and I'm not interested in that kind of arrangement. So what happens now? Now we get divorced. But we do it honestly this time. With full disclosure of all assets, all debts, all secrets. And I keep the house. Sarah, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm being more reasonable than you deserve. You lied to me, cheated on me, and tried to steal from me. In exchange, I'm not pressing criminal charges, and I'm not going to destroy your reputation any more than you've already destroyed it yourself. Another long pause. I'll have my lawyer draw up new papers. Make sure they're accurate this time. I hung up and sat in my quiet house, surrounded by the life I'd built with a man who'd never really existed. The Marcus I'd married, the one who'd held my hand during my father's funeral and talked about growing old together, had been a fiction. A character he'd played until he got tired of the role. But I was still here. Battered, betrayed, but still standing. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister in California. How's the marriage counseling going? I'd mentioned weeks ago that Marcus and I were having problems. She'd suggested therapy, date nights, weekend getaways, all the usual advice for couples going through a rough patch. I texted back. Turns out he was having an affair and hiding. Money. Getting divorced. My phone rang immediately. Sarah. Oh my God, are you okay? I'm better than okay, I said, and realized I meant it. I'm free. 3 months later, I was standing in my kitchen now, legally and officially, making breakfast for one. The February morning light streamed through windows that I'd had professionally cleaned the week before, part of my systematic effort to erase every trace of the life I'd shared with Marcus. The divorce had been finalized 2 weeks ago. Marcus had contested my demand for the house initially, but when I'd presented evidence of his hidden assets and extramarital affair, his lawyer had strongly advised him to accept my terms. In the end, I kept the house, half the legitimate savings, and all of the money he'd hidden in the secret account. Marcus got his freedom, his girlfriend, and a reputation in Denver's construction industry that would take years to repair. The settlement had been more generous than I'd expected, but it came with an unexpected side effect. I discovered I was actually pretty good at this whole taking charge of my life thing. My phone rang as I was finishing my coffee. Rebecca from work. Sarah, I have news. The Morrison Project proposal you put together? The client loved it. They want to meet with you directly to discuss expanding the scope. I smiled. The Morrison Project was a major commercial development that our firm had been courting for months. I'd taken over the account after Marcus's suspension had caused some awkward conversations in the local business community. That's fantastic. Set up the meeting for next week. There's more. Jennifer wants to see you this morning. I think she's going to offer you the senior partner position. I nearly dropped my coffee mug. The senior partner position was what I'd been working toward for years, but I'd never imagined it would come available so soon. I'll be there in an hour. After hanging up, I looked around the kitchen that had seen so much drama 3 months ago. The new granite countertops I'd installed sparkled in the morning light. The walls were painted a warm cream color instead of the sterile white Marcus had preferred. Fresh flowers, tulips from the farmer's market, sat in a vase on the island, where he'd once placed those damning divorce papers. Everything was different now. Better. The meeting with Jennifer went exactly as Rebecca had predicted. The senior partner position came with a significant salary increase, equity in the firm, and the kind of professional respect I'd been craving for years. You've shown remarkable growth these past few months, Jennifer said, leaning back in her chair. The way you've handled the Morrison account, your innovative approach to the Sterling campaign, your leadership during the transition, you've proven you're ready for this. Thank you. I won't let you down. I know you won't. There is one thing, though. The position requires some travel. Nothing excessive, but you'd need to visit client sites, attend conferences, represent the firm at industry events. Is that something you can handle? 6 months ago, I would have immediately thought about Marcus, about how he'd react to me being away, about how it might affect our relationship. Now I just smiled. I can handle it. That evening, I celebrated at my favorite restaurant, a small Italian place downtown that Marcus had always claimed was too pretentious. I sat at the bar, ordered their best wine, and toasted my success to an empty glass. Celebrating something special? The bartender asked. He was about my age, with kind eyes and graying temples that made him look distinguished rather than old. New job. New life, new everything, really. That sounds like it deserves the good wine. He poured a glass of something that probably cost more than I used to spend on groceries in a week. On the house. I can't let you do that. Consider it an investment in new beginnings. We talked for an hour about everything and nothing. His name was David, not Chen, thankfully, and he'd moved to Denver from Seattle after his own divorce 2 years earlier. He'd opened the restaurant 6 months ago, chasing a dream he'd put on hold for 20 years while building someone else's idea of a perfect life. Funny how divorce can be the best thing that ever happened to you, he said, refilling my glass. I'm still figuring that out, I admitted. Some days I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Other days I feel like I'm just pretending to be someone I'm not. Maybe you're not pretending. Maybe you're just becoming who you were always meant to be.